Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a little bit of a look at the new Vikavolt V that we've had revealed. And we need to ask a very simple but very important question. Is it better than Seismitoad? Now, when I say is it better than Seismitoad, it's not necessarily that it has to be better than Seismitoad. It can be a little bit worse than Seismitoad, but still be some huge powerhouse in the game, because let's not forget, Seismitoad was a phenomenal card for essentially its entire lifespan. It still sees playing expanded, though nowhere near as much as it used to. Now, if we have a look at Seismitoad, it really had one attack we cared about, Quaking Punch. People did use Grenade Hammer, but it was Quaking Punch that was really all that. 2 colourless energy, but bearing in mind at the time we had double colourless energy, and it did 30 damage, and your opponent couldn't play any item cards from his or her hand during his or her next turn. And if we have a look at Vikavolt V, we see an exceptionally similar card. We've got 1 lightning, 1 colourless energy, 50 damage. Your opponent cannot play any item cards from his or her hand during their next turn. They are, on the face of it, essentially the same card. Vikavolt does a little bit more damage, Vikavolt's got a little bit more HP, but other than that, you're talking largely the same card. Seismitoad ruled the format for a long time. Is Vikavolt going to do that? Now, one of the things we need to point out here is that Seismitoad had double colourless energy to pay the attack cost easily. Vikavolt, however, isn't completely out of luck. Now, on the one hand, it does have Thunder Mountain, which is lovely, but on the other hand, we are assuming that Thunder Mountain is going to rotate out right as this card is released. That'll be a short period of time, but we're not going to worry too much on those cards that we're expecting to rotate out. But you've still got Tapu Koko Prism Star, and Tapu Koko Prism Star lets you attach 1 lightning energy to each of 2 bench Pokemon when you lost zone it. So that turns the first 2 Vikavolt into single energy attackers, and from there you should have time to attach a second energy. So in terms of energy, I'm alright with it. The thing was that there was one group of cards that Seismitoad had that Vikavolt doesn't, which is huge. And that was a combination of Hypnotoxic Laser and Virbank City Gym. Hypnotoxic Laser put your opponent to sleep on a coin flip and automatically poisoned, and Virbank City Gym made them take 3 damage counters between turns for poison rather than 1. We don't have that. Now, we are doing an extra 20 damage, but think about it this way. If I attack with Seismitoad after a Hypnotoxic Laser Virbank, I'm doing 60 damage rather than 50, but then by the time it comes back to me, I've actually done 90 damage. 30 attack, 30 for poison after their turn, whereas Vikavolt's just doing 50. On the one hand, Vikavolt does have Electro Power, which does an extra 30 damage, but on the other hand, you do need to bear in mind that firstly, it's limited to 4 for your entire game, and secondly, we're expecting it to rotate out, so it's not something we need to worry about too much, unfortunately. And you can get the poison going. You can use Garbodor to poison them automatically, and then you can use Toxicroak to, well, make them take an extra 2 damage counters between turns. And then you've basically got the same thing going on. Now, you're talking 2 stage 1s in addition to Vikavolt V. It's not exactly an easy thing to pull off, but it does then get you to do the extra damage with the lovely added bonus that it's an automatic poison and you don't need to have a stadium card, so, you know, you don't need to draw into anything else. They're just sitting there rolling. Damage output is likely to be slightly lower. The reason you want to play something that blocks your opponent's items is twofold. Firstly, it's to stop them getting set up. So the theory is that your opponent isn't able to use Quick Ball, and they're not able to use Evolution Incense, and they're not able to use Poker Gear in order to actually get themselves set up, and then they lose the game. because they're not rolling. That is one option. And with Tapu Koko, Vikavolt is a go second, turn 1 option. You can't attack going first, but you should be able to block item cards pretty gosh darned easily. But the other thing is, it lets you take advantage of stuff like poison more easily. If your opponent cannot play any item cards, then they can't play a switch. And they can't play a U-turn board. So they can't really get out the active very easily, and they take the special conditions. So yes, I do think people will play Vikavolt with Garbodor. Will they play it with Toxicroak as well? Depends on consistency issues, depends on bench space. It's certainly something people are going to consider and test. Whether it ends up being good enough is unfortunately a whole different question. But if we look at the other kind of cards that Seismitoad had, it would play Pokemon Catcher. Well, we've still got Pokemon Catcher. It would play Crushing Hammer to get rid of energy. We've still got Crushing Hammer. It would also play Super Scoop Up, and that one we are losing. As it seems at the moment, assuming a team up on rotation, which I'm fairly confident is going to happen, we're going to be losing Super Scoop Up because it was last printed in Celestial Storm, and unfortunately that's going. So that's a little bit sad, but you can't win them all. So you're losing Super Scoop Up, and you're losing Electro Power, and you're losing Thunder Mountain to the rotation, but you're still going to have the option of Garbodor, you're still going to have Pokemon Catcher, you're still going to have Crushing Hammer. The one card that really made Seismitoad over the top broken was Lysander's Trump card, because that let you just shuffle your entire discard into your deck. And then, of course, at the time, we also had Versus Seeker, which let you then reuse it. But that was broken to the point they banned Lysander's Trump card. And they actually banned it in Standard, which is something they almost never do. Standard format bans are extremely rare. It's just not something we see happening. That's not to say we won't see it, but it is extremely unlikely that we see many Standard format bans. So the fact that Lysander's Trump card got banned in Standard tells you how great it was. So it's not going to be as good as Seismitoad when it had Lysander's Trump card. But you're still blocking items. It's still easy to pay the attack cost. We've got poison options. They might not be quite as good, but we've got them. Some may argue they're better. We've got a lot of the tricks Seismitoad had, though we don't have all of them. One of the issues is HPs are larger. So whereas Seismitoad was generally up against like 180 HP Darkrai, you're going to be up against 220 HP Zacian, and maybe even up to 340 HP Snorlax V. Now, on the one hand, you are doing more raw damage. On the other hand, if you've not got poison going as well, I don't think it's going to be good enough. 5-hit KOing Zacian, 7-hit KOing Snorlax. The problem is people are going to get rolling. People are going to have time to actually get their energy on their Pokemon. What hurts decks like this is if your opponent can set up an attacker and then just start rolling through you. And the problem is we have enough things in the format at the moment that can one-hit KO Vikavolt. Now, it takes some setup, and maybe under item lock it's not going to happen, but Reshiram and Charizard for 4 energy does 230, and they've got Welder to accelerate extra energy. So that's going to be a bit of a pain. Pikachu and Zekrom, if they can get free energy on, using stuff like Tapu Koko and Energy Switch, assuming Thunder Mountain rotates out, then they're going to be able to hit 150, but then start accelerating energy, and then they don't really need anything else, because they're spending the rest of the game accelerating energy, and they're in a good position from there. The thing that really worries me here, however, is Zacian. You see, Zacian's got the ability Intrepid Sword. You look at the top 3 cards of your deck, attach as many metal energy as you like to it, and put the other cards into your hand. So you're essentially drawing free while accelerating energy. So if Zacian is item locked, and it is the best attacker in the game at the moment, if Zacian is item locked, all they're going to do is just use this ability over and over again, and it's going to end their turn, but they're fine, and then as soon as they're able to attack, they're going to do 230 and get a one-hit KO. Now, there are things you can do about this, of course. One thing I would highly recommend specifically with this is Big Charm, because Big Charm will give you 240 HP, and it will mean you can take a hit from Zacian, and bearing in mind Zacian can't attack 2 turns in a row, and if they're item locked, they're going to struggle to switch between Zacian as they normally would. Maybe that's going to be enough. This is what gives me pause for thought for Vikavolt. I worry that it doesn't do quite as much damage as Seismitoad when you build into Poison, and I worry that we've got too many Pokemon that can get one-hit KOs while you're not doing enough damage. But with a Big Charm, you're out of range of Reshiram and Charizard, and you're out of range of Zacian, and they can't play a Vitality Band to do that extra 10 damage because they're item locked. And they can't play a Tool Scrapper to get rid of your Big Charm because they're item locked. And then maybe you do play it with Garbodor and Toxicroak, even though they're stage 1s, because then you are doing enough damage. If I'm playing Vikavolt, my initial reaction is Big Charm to avoid big KOs, play as fast as you can, i.e. lots of speed cards, Acro Bike and things of that nature, and then you play it with Garbodor and Toxicroak so that the poison damage adds up quickly. Early item lock will wreck games. If I go second and get a turn 1 item lock with Vikavolt, and honestly, right, if I play enough switching cards and Air Balloon and all of that, and I play Tapu Koko, that should be a given. I should be able to make a consistent, I get this the first turn. Which means if I go second, my opponent gets 1 turn without supporters until they're item locked for the game. And if I go first, my opponent gets 1 turn before they're item locked for the game. Imagine that. Imagine having 1 turn where you can use items for the entire game, but on that turn you can't use supporters. At least with Seismitoad, you could go first, and you would get 1 full turn before the item lock came on. You don't get that option with Vikavolt. The item lock comes on, and like I say, if you go second as a Vikavolt player, your opponent's had 1 turn with items and no supporters. And yeah, sure, they can use Pokegear to get supporters, but this might be a good time to mention we're still going to have Marnie. Judge is rotating out, but we're still going to have Marnie. To be fair, Seismitoad did have things like Judge. But then again, there are really silly things you can do with Vikavolt. I don't know how much I can really suggest it, but let's not forget you can use Miss Magius to give your opponent a prize, so you can use multiple Miss Magius and then maybe drop a reset stamp. And then your opponent's got a tiny hand size and they're item locked for the game. And it doesn't have to necessarily be Miss Magius. You can just wait till your opponent's naturally taken 4 or 5 prizes, drop a reset stamp to put them to 1 or 2, in the same way that Seismitoad players would use N, and then you item lock them for the rest of the game. Remember, the other thing Vikavolt's got really going for it is that it's got a second attack that does 190 damage. You have to discard 2 energy, but then again, the next turn you can just attach an energy and then get attacking. That's pretty good. As a side note, you cannot use Charger Bug here, and that's got to be a good thing. Charger Bug you can attach to a Vikavolt or a Vikavolt GX, and it's 2 lightning energy. That would work as a double lightning and pay the attack cost in 1 go, but it doesn't work for Vikavolt V, and I think at this stage we've all got to be delighted that it doesn't work for Vikavolt V. If it did work for Vikavolt V, it would be too good. That would be something that I don't think anyone would be happy about. Plus, of course, it is a Pokemon, which means you can reuse it from the discard pile with stuff like Lure Ball and search it out with Evolution Incense, and that's a very bad thing. One of the things we need to remember about Vikavolt is it's not splashable like Seismitoad. Seismitoad, you could just drop into any deck playing double colorless energy and it would all of a sudden work. You could play it as a tech, you could play it with anything. You could play whatever kind of basic energy you wanted because you had your double colorless energy for Seismitoad. That's not the deal with Vikavolt. Not only do you need to be playing lightning energy, but I think you really need to be playing Tapu Koko Prism Star as well. You can go for manual attachments, and there's only 2, you'll probably be fine. But if you're going for manual attachments, you run the risk of giving your opponent 2 or more turns with item cards, and they can use that to get set up to the point where your item lock doesn't matter. Remember, item lock gets to a point where it falls apart. Item lock gets to a stage where it's not really worth it anymore. You need to avoid that point. So is it better than Seismitoad? My initial reaction is it's not going to have as much of an impact on the format as Seismitoad. I think the fact that it's not a single energy attachment hurts. I think the fact that you're not getting poisoned with item cards hurts. But maybe the fact that you've got Pokemon so you've always got poisoned rather than looking for one of your 4 item cards, maybe that's going to help. Maybe the higher HP is really relevant. Maybe an easily searched Pokemon card is better than one of your 4 special energy in the deck. Although do bear in mind it's a Prism Star, so if it's prized, you don't have access to it. It's a very difficult question to answer. Is it going to be better than Seismitoad? I worry that it's too easily one-hit KO'd. I worry that there's too many things out there that can one-hit KO it. I worry that it's not a single energy attachment. On the face of it, I don't think it's going to be quite as impactful as Seismitoad, but please don't think that means I'm saying it's not going to be awesome. When you add in the item lock with all the other options I've got and have shown you in this video, and the fact that we do have one card that can block a lot of these big KOs you're worried about, this could still be an absolute powerhouse. But now I've got a question for you, ladies and gentlemen, and it's the same question I've been asking for the entire video. Do you think Vikavolt is better than Seismitoad, and do you think it matters? Because you can easily say, no, Seismitoad is way better, and go, yeah, but it doesn't actually matter even a little bit, because it's still awesome. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, or you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WazzyPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are pretty gosh darned awesome nonetheless. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.